Good evening and welcome to GPA Trading Services Master Trader Program webinar. We're so pleased you could join us this evening. My name is Trish N. Albrecht. I am the co-founder of GPA Trading Services, and I want to personally welcome you to tonight's event. Thank you so much for joining us. We're so pleased to have so many participants with us, so thank you again. You are a new audience to us tonight, or most of you are a new audience for us, and so we wanted to introduce you to our website. In case you have not had a chance to visit our website, we invite you to do so at gpatradingservices.com. Here is a picture of our website, and also just to give you a little insight into who we are. I always think it's nice when you're in front of a new audience to share a bit. And so we have some vacation photos from our vacations we took over the summer. Gary and I traveled quite a bit. We're fortunate enough to spend a month on the gorgeous, spectacular island of Maui. And this is us at sunset. We were actually at Mick Fleetwood. Most of you are probably familiar with the band Fleetwood Mac. And Mick Fleetwood actually resides on Maui and has a restaurant on Front Street called Fleetwood's on Front Street. And this is Gary and I at his restaurant. And he also did a private show that night, which we were lucky enough to attend. So that was very fun and exciting. And then we took up paddle boarding this summer. That was one of my goals, was to take up paddle boarding. So here's a neat shot that someone took of us out paddle boarding at sunset. Lovely photo. And then this is Gary, who will be presenting to you tonight at the lovely and gorgeous and interesting Heart Rock on Maui. Amazing what nature can produce. If you can see this perfect little heart shape rock. And we climbed down, we did this amazing hike. You can see the terrain. We climbed all the way down so we could capture a picture of this beautiful heart rock. That was on my list of to-dos. And then here's another amazing thing we did over the summer. Also took a cruise, took my mother on a cruise for her birthday, and we did this interesting horseback ride on the beach, and then they took the saddles off and we went bareback into the ocean, and the horses swam with us on them bareback back to the beach. That was very interesting experience. And then another thing that was a dream of mine was to swim with dolphins. And so for my mother's birthday, we went and did a dolphin experience. And here we are. We actually rode the dolphins, as you can see in that picture. That was a thrill of a lifetime. So that's a little bit of an insight into Gary and Trish Albrecht. We like to have a lot of fun. We like to travel. We like to have interesting experiences. And so that was part of our summer adventure, traveling about. Now, on to tonight's topic. Tonight's topic is anticipating future market conditions utilizing the MPA PE2 software. And before we begin the presentation, Gary and I love to share mantras. We share mantras with our students. Our students submit mantras to us. And so here's one that we selected for tonight. Learning is not attained by chance. It must be sought for with ardor and attended to with diligence. And we stand firmly behind that. That is a very important mantra. Let me repeat that. Learning is not attained by chance. It must be sought for with ardor and attended to with diligence. So I hope you'll keep that in mind. And on to our disclaimer. We have a standard disclaimer, but we must go through that. As you all know, trading involves risk. Therefore, please do not trade with money you cannot afford to lose. Always trade with proper money management and stick to proper money management throughout your trading endeavor. And all information provided by GPA Trading Services is for your educational purposes. Now, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Gary, and he's going to walk you through tonight's presentation, and then I'll come back on later. So thank you again for joining us, and please enjoy the presentation.
Good evening, everyone. As my wife introduced, I'm Gary R. Albrecht. I'm the founder and CEO of GPA Trading Services. I'm also the mastermind behind creating the MPA, which stands for Market Price Anticipator Premium Edition 2 software. And I'm also the educator and instructor. So we're unique in that not only did I create the software, I trade the software, and I'm also the educator and instructor of the software during our live trading classes. Now let's cover some key components that you must utilize when anticipating future market conditions. Those include the following. Support and resistance is a critical component. If you're not aware of where support and resistance lies on a chart, then you're trading blind, because support and resistance is a key component, as we will show momentarily, and discuss how the software automatically calculates these critical support and resistance levels for you. The direction of the trend. You've always heard that saying, the trend is your friend. Well, this software will allow you to trade in the direction of the trend on all time frames. We'll go into the use of multiple time frames, and then finally you'll discover and understand how the lower time frames cycle within the larger time frames. And as we go through with this wonderful software, you'll see how cycling time frames equals trading opportunities, and how cycling time frame create trading opportunities within the software itself. So let's go to the charts and show you how these components are used to anticipate future market conditions. Please give me a yes, yes, and a yes once I open up the charts to confirm you can see my charts, you see my cursor, and you still have audio. And so everyone can see the charts. I appreciate it, everyone. Multiple yeses, thank you. So as we're seeing, this is a trade alert I send out, a part of this program we'll get into later. This is the euro dollar for those of you that trade forex. We cover all commodities, futures, gold, silver, ETFs. The software runs on about 800 plus symbols, so you can simply request which stock, commodity, financial instrument you would like to review, and we can cover those during live classes. But this is the euro, and as you'll go back in our archives, we have archives going back several years. We talk about how the euro is in a downtrend continuation. Well, it's hard to understand sometimes. Well, downtrend continuation, well, what if I try to sell and the market starts to move higher? And you've always heard, well, if you're in a downtrend, you should be selling the rallies in a downtrend. Well, when is the most appropriate time to sell? Is the initial move here an opportunity to sell? How do you know when the market's going to top and reverse and continue with the overall trend? This is where this software comes into play. As I move to the charts, you can see the software consists of several components. Each time frame consists of, obviously, the direction of the trend. We call this the trend momentum. We also mentioned support and resistance. You'll notice how the software will calculate support and resistance levels automatically as price moves into these areas. And as I go to lower time frames, you can see how these important levels do come into play, and it automatically is calculated, as I mentioned previously. So what's the secret to understanding multiple time frames? A, you need to know where your support and resistance lies. B, you need to understand the cycling of time frames. So the direction of the trend is given by the trend momentum. Well, one thing that's unique about the software is many out there will say, well, you know, oscillating indicators do not work in trending markets. They're great when you're in a choppy market, a consolidating market, as they oscillate up and down, but they do not work in trending markets. Well, this is where this software separates itself from the pack. When you're in a trending market, we not only have the oscillators that, yes, move up and down, but they go through a period, as we see on the far right side. The euro's been in a very strong downtrend for several weeks now. And as my trend momentum's maintain an oversold area, we have the price action showing this phenomenon called slingshots. Slingshotting lower and lower and lower and lower and lower. And as we can see, price continues to move in that direction. Notice as the time frames are cycling, you see the same behavior on all time frames. Not only is the daily slingshotting lower, but my 4-hour continues as it tops and rolls, starts a phenomenon of slingshotting lower and lower and lower and lower and lower, and most recently it's trying to do it again. Well, the difference now with the euro is we have the 4-hour still pushing higher, trying to slingshot lower here, but it's projected to fail, and we're expecting the euro to start to climb because now my daily is bottoming, turning back up. One thing that's easy to see, no matter what time frame we view, is we can see how the software, anytime it bottoms and reverses, we have multiple time frames bottoming in oversold conditions. The price action indicator here is bottoming in oversold conditions. The trend momentum is bottoming in oversold conditions. So as the euro, even we go back months ago, days ago, years ago, the same principle is followed. You'll notice that as this weekly was bottoming and reversing, we had multiple time frames aligning. That's important to know. So as I see the weekly bottoming and reversing, I can also scroll back as far as my daily and see the same information. As I go back to that same period in time, we'll see, yes, my weekly was bottoming at the swing point low, my daily was bottoming at the swing point low. You can go to the 4-hour, and in fact, we had a weekly, a daily, a 4-hour, multiple time frames aligning. Also, we can tell based on the uptrend that we can anticipate this type of behavior because the time frames will follow suit with the larger time frames. So notice the same phenomenon. The daily is bottoming and reversing, and eventually we get a swing point high and a reversal that pulls in. What is happening during this phase of the daily? Well, the daily first tries to slingshot lower. Some of you are asking, what exactly is a slingshot? It's when the red and blue line race off from green money flow. This is a phenomenon that we teach very explicitly in our classes, and believe me, you'll know what a slingshot is. So when these form, we know they're forming days in advance. This is on a daily time frame, and we can see it takes days and days and days to form, and once it engages, this is how we anticipate in advance. Well, we can anticipate that the daily would go and engage down, and it's expected to fail. Why would this fail here? We're on this side of the equation, and I'll change this to purple to keep your eyes focused on two different areas. On here, I'll change this to purple, for example. Why would the daily slingshot lower and lower and lower on this side, but on this side try to slingshot lower, fail, and ultimately start to slingshot higher, as we see here, higher and higher and higher? Why is that? It's following the direction of the higher time frame trend. So notice on the left side of the equation, the weekly's moving lower. We're slingshotting lower here as we went lower, lower, lower. Then all of a sudden, as my weekly reverses, my daily shows very specific signs of that reversal. So we anticipate now that my weekly's moving higher, my daily, when it slingshots lower, should fail. Well, that's a perfect entry. When it fails, you know to go long. And the software anticipates this in advance. We're going to show you not only on the chart how you see this, but we have an automated trading system that looks for these type of entries, and it can enter these automatically based on your specific entry criteria. So what exactly does that mean? That means when we know we're in a strong downtrend, you can tell the software to sell the rallies in a downtrend. When we know we're in a strong uptrend, we can tell the software to buy the dips in the uptrend. So this works on any stock symbol, any forex symbol, any symbol that's located within the market watch. There are literally hundreds of symbols, and it'll work on any one of those. So in closing, as far as the euro is concerned, here's those that may be trading the euro. The euro is due to go much lower. Why? Because everything aligned at the same time. As we go through the monthly, we can see our monthly is topping and rolling. And I'll move these lines to the current hard right edge of price action. The euro was expected to start to make a long-term downward direction again as my monthly is topping and rolling, pushing lower. At the same time, we had a weekly topping and rolling, pushing lower. And at the same time, we had a daily topping and rolling, pushing lower. So you can see how the time frames are aligning. Well, the software is so smart to understand that not only is it important when they align, but I need some sort of signal to tell me that it's aligning without necessarily looking at each time frame. Well, that's where the software has several components. One of the components is triggers. You'll notice triggers short, triggers long. As we go through, we'll go through some of those in a moment. But we do offer triggers that automatically tells when the time frames are aligned. Not only when a particular time frame is oversold or overbought, but it tells you when the lower time frames and the higher time frames are in agreement. So you'll get different type of triggers. Each one means different things. It'll tell you when I have unison between my lower and higher time frames. That's when I get larger triggers. When I just have the lower or a specific time frame, I get smaller triggers. You'll notice these gold triggers. These are called take profit triggers. So once I'm in a position, as the cycle of time frames start occurring, you'll get these fires of these take profit triggers. So if I'm not at my computer and I want to take profit along the way as it's moving in my favor, I can tell the software to do that. Let's go over to the Dow. The Dow's been a very strong uptrend. This is another trade alert we send out. We give you very explicit instructions. What's unique about our trade alerts is we tell you and paint the picture of what the software is to look like at the time in which these alerts go out. So when we look for a buy signal, we tell you exactly what to look for, and we paint the picture, as we like to call it, paint the Picasso of what the software is supposed to look like. If you go back in our archives, when the Dow was moving in this area, we told everyone, look, my weekly starting to top and roll, my daily starting to top and roll, and we're going to look for specific signs and symptoms of a price pattern reversal, a high, a low, a lower high, a slingshot failure, making a lower high, and then we're going to sell and allow this to move down. Well, not only did the time frames align stating this, but we were able to give you targets. You'll notice I have a target on here of 16,188. And we said not only is it going to go down, but should not cross below the 16,188. It's a very specific battle zone, as we like to call it. Form a resistance, turn support, turn resistance, turn support, and it should not breach this area as we move lower. This moved down several hundred points. In advance, we gave you advance warning of this move lower. And then we not only did that, but we said that this weekly would reverse in a slingshot higher, making new highs. So we came very close to our level, 209, 188, very close. And we stated that the software would then turn and make new highs on the Dow based on a weekly slingshot. So notice as my weekly came down, started to depressurize as we moved down several hundred points. And then the trade alert said, look, you're going to buy that weekly slingshot as soon as it engages and expect price to go no lower than 16,188. Beautifully engaged here. And this is again what we call engaging slingshot. When the red and blue race off, engage up, that's a slingshot. We'll notice the Dow has been in a major uptrend for months and months and months. Notice how these slingshots are ideal times to buy and scale in, buy and scale in, buy and scale in, buy and scale in, over and over and over and over and over. So far we not only anticipated several hundred point move down, but we anticipated well in advance that this weekly was going to cycle back up in a slingshot, and we gave you a target above 1,000 points. And the Dow did exactly that. It bottomed and it went up 1,000 points. Well, now here we are. Are we ready to start another correction before another weekly slingshot? Or do we still have a little left to go before we then get another retracement? So we're expecting the Dow to repeat this behavior in the very near future, where we start to make another correction and then another weekly slingshot will form, engage, and allow the Dow to make another new high. Well, this is anticipated in advance because of the way the time frames cycle. My weekly still pushing up, finishing that slingshot, and my daily starting to top and roll. My daily did succeed by slingshotting higher here. Trade alert went out last week that said, look, as soon as the daily forms a slingshot, you want to buy and expect the Dow will make a new high, and we gave a target zone for the Dow to reach. And it went right at our target zone. I mean, to the T. And now it's pulling back. The question is it going to do it again before the bigger reversal, or is it going to fail and start to move down? Well, this is where the software gives signs and symptoms. We're expecting this daily to re-engage. We're going to expect this daily slingshot to re-engage back up. If it fails, we're going to have a high, a low, a lower high. Consider a price pattern reversal. Isn't that what we had over here? Daily kept going higher and higher and higher up until this point. Tried to slingshot up, failed, and when it failed, that was our cue to sell, and many of our students took advantage of this huge down move. Then when the weekly engaged up as we anticipated in advance, many students took advantage of that as well. Now we're going to expect similar behavior. If this is in fact the end of this correction, or the beginning of the new down correction, then this next daily slingshot up will fail, just like over here. So we're going to buy that daily slingshot, take aggressive profits because it may fail. If it does fail and starts to turn and hook out like this, where it's engaging up, turns and hooks out, we then sell, and we're going to then expect the weekly is going to take over as it depressurizes over like before, and it's going to be about 1 to 3 weeks, probably more like 2 to 3 weeks of downside pressure as this weekly forms, then engages in another slingshot. The bias is that this is going to occur in the coming weeks. Whether or not we get another higher high first or after, we're still going to have several days of downside pressure. This over here took 14 days, just under 3 weeks. That's why we're expecting a similar behavior to take about 2 to 3 weeks of downside pressure before the next slingshot engages up. But what I want to leave you with, because we have so many components to cover in such a short time, is that it's very simple. All we need to do is follow the cycling of time frames. That's key. What did I say at the beginning? The cycling of time frames allows us trading opportunities. And when we have a monthly pushing higher, a weekly pushing higher, then of course my daily will exhibit slingshots higher and higher. When I have a monthly pushing higher, weekly pushing higher, or in the case of a monthly by itself, then the weekly is going to slingshot higher and higher. Over and over. So you're saying, well, Gary, what if I'm a scalper? The same rules apply to all time frames. So as my time frames are aligning and I have a 4 hour, a 1 hour, a 15 and a 30 in overbought conditions moving lower, and I see a 15-minute slingshot up against that trend of all those other time frames, you expect it to fail. So when it does give you a price pattern reversal, a high, a lower, lower high, you can sell and scalp that as price moves lower with the 15-minute, the 30-minute, the 1 hour, the 4 hour. Okay, it makes sense, Gary, that you see multiple time frames aligning, but how can that help me in these different triggers? When do we use triggers to enter and exit? Well, that's where this software came into play. We then, because of cycling time frames, we receive triggers and slingshots. Remember, triggers is when our price action indicator and trend momentum indicators are in oversold condition, we get triggers to go long, and when they're in overbought conditions, we get triggers to go short. That's one way. During the cycle of triggering lower and higher, you go through a phenomenon of slingshotting. And all of these are created because of cycling time frames. So I don't know how many of you have paid attention to the cycling of time frames, but you can ask yourself this question. How many of you ever get in it, whether you're trading forex, stocks, commodities, doesn't matter what you're trading, that as soon as you enter the trade, other than the spread, or in the case of your commission, as you enter a trade, it seems like it always goes against you. I know many traders over the years have said, Gary, it seems like every time I enter a trade, it seems like it's going against me. Well, if I pay attention to the lower time frames And I understand when I'm ready to place that trade long or short, my lower time frames are giving me the direction to go long when I enter long, or are they giving me the direction to go short when I go short, then that's when I'm going to see less of a drawdown. Well, as long as I have the lower time frames in agreement, it should move in my direction fairly quickly. Well, the key is to understand when the lowers arrive and they're aligned with the higher time frame, that's when you get the highest of probability trades. And the true art of high probability trades is when the multiple time frames align. Well, this software takes all of that in consideration via the trigger system and via the slingshots. And I don't have time to explain all this, but slingshots are the result of the time frame cycling. So when I get a 4-hour slingshot, for example, it's because my 15, 30, and 1 hour are bottoming, forcing this 4-hour to then engage higher. And it engages higher to a new high because during this phase, my daily is moving higher. So this is how you can anticipate in advance which direction price is likely to go. So once I see, as far as the Dow is concerned, once I see the Dow engage back up in this daily, when is that likely to happen? As my 4-hour starts to bottom, the Dow started to rally today. I can bank on this. I got a trigger telling me I was in perfect condition to go long. I have multiple time frames aligning, the 15, the 30, the 1 hour, the 4 hour, all turning to the upside, and that's going against a daily turning to the downside. That's when this causes my daily to engage. So should it engage up and fail, then it's going to go in the direction of my weekly, which is starting to turn over. Should it make a higher high, then I understand that I'm going to have another opportunity for a price pattern reversal once my weekly gets started to the downside. So how simple is this? I simply look for my support and resistance levels. I look toward the software to line up, which now is automated for you based on triggers, and then the phenomenon of slingshots. Well, if that wasn't enough, we have what we called a trade management system that's included with this software, and it looks like this. The trade management system is a system that I can trade instantly to get into a position. So for example, look at how smart this system is. I can go into my expert advisor, properties, and within this I have an opportunity to tell it how many lots I want to trade, what my stop loss, take profit 1, 2, and 3 is going to be. Then I can go on to tell it, hey, I want you to buy triggers long, completely customizable, to take a long trigger, to take a short trigger, to take a slingshot long, to take a slingshot short, and you simply go and you tell it true or false. Do you want it to take a trigger long? Do you want to take a slingshot long? Well, in the case of a uptrending market, yeah, I want a trigger long, I want a slingshot long. I want everything long in an uptrending market. Now, in an uptrending market, I can tell it not to take a trigger short and not to take a slingshot short, because we don't expect a whole lot of movement on the short side. We expect once it reverses, you want to be on the long side. But you'll notice here we have an entry criteria. Right there it says entry criteria filter. So watch how smart the software is. In order to use it to trade, I just double click, I activate it by simply click and dragging, and once I get tick data, once price changes, you see it went to ready to trade. Well, notice on this time frame it's still pointing up. It's pointing straight up. It's not engaging. So if I tell this right now to say, okay, go ahead and sell the pound, you'll notice what happens. The pound will not sell. The system will not allow it to sell. And look at what it says. Cannot trade short, right there. Cannot trade short on a 4-hour chart without H4, that's the time frame we're on, trend momentum headed down, or you have a 4-hour slingshot engaging down. It's teaching you proper trading and when the proper setup is. So just by using this system, even in a demo account, it's going to teach you how to trade. Let me show you that again. I'll leave this out, and this is the alert box. So as I go to sell, because I don't have a slingshot engaging, as soon as it ticks, it's going to bounce right back, and it's going to say you cannot trade short with the trend momentum headed higher unless the trend momentum is headed lower or we're engaging in a slingshot. As soon as it gets tick data, I know it's during Asia and we don't have a lot of movement during Asia session, but you'll see it do it. What's unique about this, again, there it is. Can I trade short on an H4 chart with the H4 red trend momentum, or we get an engaging slingshot? And we're clearly moving higher. So not only does it have all our built-in rules and regulations, so you ask yourself, well, I don't know if I'll remember all these things. It's very simple, because all I'm doing is looking at multiple time frames, and I'm looking for triggers to set up. As you can see, we get triggers on all these different time frames, and they go short to go long, and they fire when it's appropriate, when the software is in alignment. And then, as I mentioned, you'll get different size triggers. When this 4 hour says it's ready to go, if my 15, my 30, and my hour, it'll look below and say, yes, my lower time frames are good to go. And then it looks to the higher time frame and say, what's the daily doing? So with the pound, we are expecting much further downside on the pound. Why? We expect much further downside on the pound for months to come, because the monthly is topping and rolling. My weekly has topped and rolled and is still pushing lower. So in the midst of a monthly topping and rolling, a weekly topping and rolling, our students have made hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pips on this down move that we called in advance, knowing the monthly, the weekly, the daily were all aligning. And notice what the daily has done since that top and reversal. The daily tries to slingshot higher, fails. Turns out that means I have a price pattern reversal, a high, a low, lower high. That's a selling opportunity. Once my daily bottoms, it's expected to slingshot lower. Expected to slingshot lower. Expected to slingshot lower. And now we're waiting for yet another one. It's done it once, twice, 3 times, 4 times. And it's expected to do this behavior over and over and over until that weekly finishes its cycle. Right? So one thing you take in consideration, there are times when my trend momentum is pointing a direction. The only time this trend momentum or direction of the trend can be overruled or vetoed is by an engaging slingshot. So right here we had the trend momentum starting to turn to the upside, but it was overruled by this trend slingshot down. So that's the only time we overrule. So what's next? The pound's going to give us a correction toward the upside like before, but the difference is we're going to wait and sell another slingshot lower. I can tell you this days in advance. I told our students you need to be on the long side of the pound, because the pound's going to chop, drifting sideways to higher, while my daily depressurizes, as we call it, moves out of oversold conditions and forms the next slingshot. And your trade alert is to sell the next daily slingshot. Suggested strategy is to sell the next daily slingshot. The key is, as long as this weekly continues to push lower and it's not engaging up, it's still pushing lower. As we can see now, it's still pushing lower. My daily is telling us every time it forms a slingshot, you want to sell it. So that goes back to the trade management system. If I'm at the chart and I see it engaging, then yes, I can simply enter that trade. How difficult is it to put the trade management system on? You simply go to your profile, and we call these templates. We add a template with the trade management system, and it takes seconds. And notice this. This is a console that tells you what time frames are forming slingshots, and it'll also show you when they become engaged. So not only do I know what I'm anxious to sell, but I can see at what point is it starting to form and engage. My daily's just starting to turn to the upside and has not separated for a slingshot. My 4 hour, as we go to the 4 hour, you can see it's forming a slingshot towards the downside. So as I go to the 4 hour, I can see it's forming, as it's racing off, potentially forming a slingshot to the downside. Well, can everyone start to connect the dots? If I have a daily crossing over to the upside, moving higher, triggering higher, and I have a 4 hour trying to eventually slingshot lower, we're expecting it to fail. We're expecting, once this turns and engages down, can you sell that? Yes. As a trader, I can sell it, scalp it down as my 4 hour engages down, but it's expected to fail, meaning I'm going to get a low, a high, a higher low. And when it does fail, then I go long with my daily, Because what is the strategy? The strategy is to allow this daily to form, then engage in a slingshot lower. Well, notice as the daily starts to form, price moves higher because the time frames are moving higher. Then once it engages down, this was a several hundred pip move based on that last slingshot. Are we going to see several hundred pips more? Don't know, but we know it makes pips. All slingshots make pips. Every last slingshot makes pips. So now, not only do we have a trade management system that shows you, but allows you to tell it, hey, sell the rallies in a downtrend by only selling slingshots lower or triggers lower when we get the cycle of time frame. So that means when my daily engages, for example, watch how cool this software is. When my daily started to form and engage in the slingshot lower, this whole time it was forming, my lower time frames are cycling from oversold to overbought. Then once my 4 hour, 1 hour, etc. start to top and roll, it's what caused the catalyst of this daily engaging down. Knowing this information will help me because now when I'm anxious to sell a daily degree slingshot, I know I can allow my 4 hour form, as we like to call 4 hour, 1 hour, 15:30 to align. And then not only does it align, but it gives you a trigger to tell you, yeah, it's time to sell that slingshot. Everybody see that? Type in yes. So when I see a slingshot forming and I go, it's starting to turn, it's starting to hook, is it engaged? Is it time? Is it the perfect time yet? You simply go to the lower time frames and say, do I have a trigger? The answer is yes. Boom, you're in the trade. You also get it on the console. Well, this is just the beginning because we also offer what we call a market scanner. This market scanner is a high-level overview of whatever symbols or stocks or commodities or whatever stocks, you name it, forex, you want to add to it. It gives you a high-level overview of everything that the software is running. You can customize any symbol on this list. So, in this example, what does this scanner show me? It shows me, based on the time frames, 1, 5, 15, 30, all the way through the monthly, what direction are the arrow. The euro's all pointing up on these lower time frames, and we're still pointing down on the major time frames, right? So what's it doing? It's part of cycling before it continues down in the direction of the higher trend. We're getting triggers. Here's the triggers. So it tells you what direction the trend is, when does a trigger fire, at what point, which direction it fires. It tells you what slingshots on the horizon forming and or engaging. And as we go through this list, you can see slingshots form all the time. That's good because I can expect certain behavior from slingshot. When they slingshot with the higher direction, they're expected to make higher highs. When they slingshot with the direction being down, they're expected to make lower lows. But when they form and then go against the time frame and they slingshot up against the time frames moving down, then we expect that slingshot to fail, and when it does, that's an entry to go short. And we could see my H4 on the dollar yen is saying, hey, we need to be on the short side of the market. Look at my time frame. The 1 hour is turning back over, 5 minutes still cycling up, but my 15, my 30, my 1 hour, and my 4 hours just about to flip over back towards as we got a trigger short. So it tells you it's in overbought conditions, triggering lower to join forces with the lower time frame. So it automatically tells you the short side of the market is the way to be viewing the dollar yen. Well, if that's not enough, we have another scanner called the Slice of Heaven Finder. The Slice of Heaven Finder looks like this. It gives you very specifics, and this is 100% customizable. Watch when I go into my expert advisor. If I'm a position trader, or I'm a day trader, or I'm a scalper, I can put this information in here. I can tell it, I want to scan a 15, a 5, and a 1 minute. I want to scalp down here on the lowest of time frame. It'll get the setups. Then if I want to be an intermediate day trader, those that trade options, want weekly options, we use this by trading our daily time frame. When I get signs and symptoms of particular behavior, I know that price is going to move in a direction for several days. Ideal for daily and in this case weekly options. So I can customize my daily, my weekly, my monthly, all the way to a 15. So as I set this to 15, this would be 15, 5, 1. If I set this to a 4 hour, this would be the 4 hour, 1 hour, 30 minutes. Well, what good does this do? You'll notice it gives you very specific information. So I'm just going to go ahead and cancel this out. It gives you very specific information. If I catch my trigger long on the euro, as we know the euro is starting to bounce in a correction, but still bounce, it shows me here my 4 hour is pushing higher, but forming a slingshot lower. Remember the rules. When a daily's pushing higher, a 4 hour slingshot, once it engages, is expected to fail. So when I see that information and I see it fail, I know to go long. And it shows my 1 hour still pushing higher. It's forming a slingshot lower. So there are times when I run this and I can get in instantly. Trigger long, trigger long, trigger long. And there are other times when I get in, I must wait for the lower time frame to finish cycling against it. And once it finishes, going back with the higher time frame, I can jump right back in. So gold is going to climb a little bit higher. We're expecting a little bit of a retracement. We're going to show you that in a moment. Yes, gold is going to go lower as my monthly's still moving lower, but right now my daily's bottoming, turning up, my 4 hours bottoming, turning up, and my 1 hour is still pushing up, but forming a slingshot down. Well, why is all this information important? Because as a trader, it gives you the opportunity to get in very low risk, high reward, high probability trades. Here's gold. Gold is projected to move lower. Yes. We have target zones down here, and I have a couple for you. The next target zone is 1231 down to 1218. We're expecting further downside. But remember, even in the midst of strong downtrends, it still makes corrections. Still makes corrections. So as we look at cycling time frames, what are we doing? Same thing we were doing on the pound. We're selling daily degree slingshots. We're selling daily degree slingshot. So guess what? My daily's ready to depressurize, as that information was shown. My 4 hour is in the process of being oversold, having slingshotted recently, and we're ready to start to turn back up after finishing moving lower. So yes, we do expect gold to go lower, but you can see how the time frames are aligning, telling you gold's going to give us a little bit of a bounce. My 15, my 30, my 1 hour, my 4 hour that was slingshotting lower is oversold, and my daily's oversold. So in the coming days, I can tell that trade management system, okay, sell the next daily slingshot down on gold. Why? Because my weekly is still pushing lower. Everybody see it? And my monthly is still pushing lower. In fact, engaging in a slingshot. So we're expecting gold over the next several weeks to push considerably lower, but that's the key. When do I get into a downtrend? I know it's going to go down. When do I get in? This is where the software and this phenomenon of slingshot gives us ideal entries over and over and over. And how do I know it's going to go lower? Because it's going to follow the direction of the higher time frames. So as my weekly pushes lower, my monthly pushes lower, engages lower, my daily is going to do what? Try to slingshot higher, ultimately fail, then turn into slingshot lower, 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 lower. You can see this phenomenon back when it was in an uptrend. Same rules. When I have a weekly pushing higher, my daily is going to try to slingshot lower, fail. When I get my price pattern reversal, then I can buy and then start buying slingshot higher, buying slingshot higher, buying slingshot higher, buying slingshot higher. And this whole time, without even looking at my weekly, I can automatically tell between this line and this line, that swing point high, my weekly is moving towards the upside, right? Without even looking. I can tell based on the behavior of price and how it's exhibiting. And here it is. The weekly's clearly moving higher between those two lines. Everybody go, wow, this is pretty cool. I can look for direction. That's pretty simple. Anyone can read, is this pointing up or is this pointing down? And we go further and demonstrate this in class every day. We have class 3 times a week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays. Live and in class, I'm painting the picture to tell you, hey, next thing you need to do is buy that daily slingshot and look for a higher high. The next one, buy the daily slingshot, look for a higher high. And we ultimately give you targets to shoot for. And that is, on the way down, we're going to have a little correction here. We're going to sell that daily slingshot lower, but my target's this 1231 to 1218. So once there, so it engages down, whether it's today, tomorrow, next week, when that daily engages down, you want to sell gold and look for price, to move lower towards our target zone. Well, again, remember what the trade management system does for us. I can instantly, when I set the trade management system, I can go in here and say, okay, I want to sell that daily slingshot. So I can tell it right here. Slingshot long, false. Slingshot short, yes. Trigger short. Well, what if the daily goes to overbought conditions and doesn't slingshot lower? It makes it all the way back and turns over. Then you could tell it to trigger and take a trigger short. So I can set it right now, and whether it takes 1 day, 2 days, 3 days to form and engage, it'll sit there in ready mode and then enter when it engages, or it can sit here for a week or so as it tops and rolls and triggers lower. And I can actually enter this information right here by simply clicking and telling it true or false. So it's cool. The only thing you need to remember, and this boils down trading, is simple. It gives you triggers and slingshot. That's all you need to know. Triggers and slingshot. And again, how in the world do you come up with that? It's simply the cycling of time frames. When they're cycling, you get tops and bottoms. As you can see, any oscillator gives you tops and bottom, but they don't give you the slingshot phenomenon that this software does. And on a downtrend, look how beautiful. It tries to slingshot up, fails, it bottoms, it slingshots lower, 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 over and over and over. So many of you will say, well, you know, I have strategies where when I see this swing point low, and let's just do this for example. Well, Gary, I know when I see my oscillators in overbought conditions, and I'll just use a line there, when I see this swing point low come into place, and then my oscillators are overbought, then I want to sell once it breaks the previous low. Well, look at gold. It had to move from a swing point high of 1342 to break a low down here around 1320, 1319 to break that swing point low of 1320. So it had to move $22 before I would even enter this short. Well, now you're able to enter it way in advance, long before it breaks the previous swing point low. And why would we expect that daily to slingshot lower? In advance. Why? Long before this is forming, why would I expect that daily to slingshot lower? Everybody can figure that out, yes? I simply look to the right side of that equation. I'm on a 4-hour. Why would I expect it to slingshot lower? Because my daily is doing what? My daily is moving lower. How cool is that? So we have summarized this into a software that is like driving a car. Whenever you drive an automobile, it's like driving this MPA-PE2 software. You must look left and right. What does that mean? That means before I enter a trade, I want to know what the lower time frames are doing. Are they moving lower? Are they moving higher? Are they topping together? Are they bottoming together? And then once I understand that, it's simple to see what it's doing. Is it topping? Is it rolling? Is it moving higher? Is it moving lower? And once that information is deciphered, I look to the right. And hey, 4-hour, what are you doing? Daily, what are you doing? And as I see it in that direction, I know exactly what type of behavior the time frame will exhibit. So notice we saw this on currencies. You'll see it on stocks, commodities, equities. Doesn't matter. It's the same over and over. And this behavior repeats itself even on the lowest of time frames. Wow. Well, not only do we get the setup of the Slice of Heaven Finder 2, which I can customize and tell it what time frames I want to use, right? This is the Slice of Heaven Finder 2. So one finding, especially as I use the higher time frames, allows me to have multiple trade entries. I no longer have to discuss when is an opportune time for the euro to enter a trade. When can I scalp it to the upside, and when can I sell it back to the downside? That's where the slingshots come in. Even though we're triggering long now, we're going to expect a correction, yes, but ultimately we're going to sell a slingshot in the future once my daily cycles and turns back over towards the downside. And this is what this finding will do for you, setting up multiple trades that runs for hundreds and even thousands of pips based on how the time frames are aligning. And again, I simply set it and say, okay, when I set it to a monthly, right? I can set this to a monthly right here and say, okay, I want to know when the monthlies are setting up and then when my weeklies and dailies are starting to cycle within a monthly. That's where you're going to be a long-term, definitely swing trade, if not investment trade, that you can literally be in for months to come. So it depends on your trading style. But that's how customizable this software is. Well, let's go back and say, well, you showed me a lot. Well, there's more to come. I'm going to briefly show you one of the newest things we have. It's called the Platinum Asia scalping software. And what is a Platinum Asia scalping software? It's where it gives you buy and sell levels for, specifically for the market of Asia. It automatically during the day, as we go from London through US, it calculates a buy and sell level. And I simply do one thing, is I always follow my rules. I never trade unless I have multiple time frames in alignment. My 4 hour starting to top and roll. My 1 hour is moving higher, trying to slingshot up. Well, everyone's going to know that based on a 1 hour slingshot going against a 4 hour down, this 1 hour should fail. So I'm going to allow price to go up here, move higher, turn and hook out and fail. Then I'm going to sell it based on my 15 and 30 starting to top and roll. And it gives you very specific information where that sell level is, where my take profits are, and where my potential buy or sell is. So only time I sell from a sell level when the time frames are topping and rolling, moving lower, and the only time I buy from a buy zone is when my time frames are bottoming and moving from oversold conditions. That's also included. So now let's go back and I'll show you the type of results that this system has shown and continues to show. Here's an example of a Google trade we took, and this was over a $50 move on Google as Google was moving lower. The time frames were aligning, and you notice here's the automated trade management system that entered that trade based on the criteria we set forth.
The system takes a screenshot of all your trades.
And when this system actually enters, it takes a screenshot of your trade, so then you can make notes, print it out, make notes on it, and tell exactly what you're thinking and help you in your trading journal. Let's continue. Euro yen, one of the currency pairs. We're in the process of time frames topping and rolling. Here we are up 183 pips on the process of a top and reversal, and we're riding, scaling down, scaling, riding the down move on the euro yen. Again, automated trading. Here's the euro pound, up over 283 pips, doing the same scenario, just selling, slingshot, riding price down as my time frames are pushing lower. All this was set up by the Slice of Heaven Finder and entering with this system. Here's one over 400 pips on the pound dollar. Notice it's color coded. When I'm short, it's red. When I'm long, it's green. Aussie dollar, up over 608 pips. And this was buying the bottom reversal on a daily, buying this to go long before we then sold a weekly slingshot down that we then rode this price down considerably lower into the 80 plus handle, several hundreds of pips. But this is when it was on its uptrend. Here's the odd Swiss, 922 pips, riding the process of slingshotting lower and lower and lower and lower, multiple time frames aligning. The system kept the trade running. Here's gold, over a $50 move to the upside on gold, and then later we then got a $54 move to the downside. So we trade gold up, we trade gold down, we trade gold every which way but loose. And it's simply based on the cycling of time frame, and we can tell it to enter these trades accordingly. So any ETF traders out there, stock traders, There's many ways to trade gold. Spot gold, you can trade it via ETFs. You can trade it during options. Many ways to trade gold. How powerful is that to know we're expecting and targets to shoot for, and how long it should take to get there based on how many time frames are cycling. Euro odd. This is when the euro odd was on a major uptrend. 1,142 pips. This one trade alone banked over 3,500 pips. Take profit 1. We still had 2 lots running. We took take profit 2 at 1,500 pips, and it went on to reach that 3,000 pip range. Additional 2,000 plus the 1,500 was over 3,500 pips on this one trade because the time frames were aligning. Here's one of our students that uses our software but places his simultaneous trades in TradeStation. 8,600 pips. Multiple trades he had running, tallying 8,600 pips. Well, because the monthlies and the weeklies were involved, and he talks about the slice of heaven trade, this trade went on to continue to run up to 18,311 pips. And then here's a picture of his TradeStation. Multiple trades running, tallying each one of these numbers, tallies 18,311 pips. Simply by allowing the time frames to run and cycle, he was able to continue to let these trades run because he knew the direction of the higher time frames.
Very proud.
Very proud. Here's several trades that totaled 29,000. Here's several trades that totaled 38,000, 39,000. And then here's some that totaled 59,000. Multiple trades, whether it's stocks, commodities, future, gold, oil, doesn't matter. $10,000 on an oil trade by itself. We were able to peg these moves. And again, it's color coded, so it's almost dummy proof. Now, option traders. There's option traders I know that say, well, I don't need software. I just simply use implied volatility, and I use my knowledge of this company, and then I trade my options based on strike price, etc. I don't need software. Well, here's with our student that's an option trader for years. I exited my short position a little early, but still made 1,200. Then re-entered later that day for a trade of 300, both using options. If I had done this on my own, I would have bailed on it long ago for a loss. How many option trades, when you see your options start to go against you, you panic? Well, if it's going against you, that's the lower time frames moving. But if it's still in the direction of higher trade, hang in. As he said here, now I'm looking to make a profit. If black gold, talking about oil, comes through, I will have my subscription paid very quickly. Well, this individual went on to buy our annual subscription and new private mentoring based on a couple of trades we placed. Thanks for all your hard work in developing the system. As price proves intention and my abilities to use the system keeps improving, I'm dropping my financial advisor and several newsletters. I applied for a forex, because he was trading options only before, to be added to my Thinkorswim account. Once I gain more time, I can't wait to use the GPA and his broker to assist in his Australian and Switzerland accounts. He's telling his broker exactly what trades to place based on that slice of heaven finder setting up on the longer time frames. Isn't that a beauty? Very proud of our student success. Now I'm going to turn it back over to my wife as she reviews the entire program that we're offering for you today.
I hope you guys have enjoyed this presentation. We have, as you can see, our software is very in-depth and completely customizable, and we have put a tremendous amount of time, thought, effort, and resources into this, and we provide explicit education. We are a very education focused company. Gary loves to teach. He spends an inordinate amount of time in class going over the markets and the software and everything in depth with our students, and they greatly appreciate it and they learn a tremendous amount. So we put together what we like to call the Master Trader program, because it encompasses everything we think you need to really and truly be a successful trader. Not just the software alone. We do the live classes, which we thoroughly enjoy. We love being in live classes with our students. We have a wonderful student base from around the world, and so we love to be in there with the students. And then we also do trade alerts, which Gary will cover during our live classes. He submits the trade alert, and then the next day in class he goes over in depth, walks you through the trade alert, and so he covers everything from top to bottom. That's what we call our Master Trader program. It's the software, the classes, and the trade alerts. Now, we covered, as I said, we have so much to cover, we can't go into great detail and everything during these webinars, but if you join us in class, you will be amazed at how much we cover. But the software, as we went through tonight, is the Market Scanner, the Slice of Heaven 2 Finder, the Slingshot Trade Triggers, which Gary went over, and also the Trade Management System. Our students love the software, and they came to us and said, you know, we really would love some automated trading if possible. So we said, okay, we went hard at work for the Trade Management System, and I don't think you'll find anything like our Trade Management System out there. It is really, truly one of a kind. It's completely customizable to fit your trading style, and it is truly one of a kind, and we're extremely proud of it. And then also our new Platinum Asia scalping system, which Gary briefly touched on. So we have so much to offer. It's amazing. It truly is amazing. We love top 10 lists. I'm sure you're all familiar with top 10 lists. So we put together a top 10 list as well. So I'm going to read through those. Number 1, calculate support and resistance levels. Number 2, identifies the trend of each time frame. Number 3, monitors and tracks time frame cycles. Number 4, provides consistent entries, exits, and take profit levels based on trade triggers, slingshots, and profit triggers. Number 5, our wonderful trade management system, which you can set in advance, and it's completely customizable for your entry criteria. Also, the trade management system automatically manages your trade from entry to exit, whatever type of trading you want to do. Fits any trading style. We have the dual scanners that scan the market looking for the next big trade. Works on 800 plus symbols, including stocks, forex, futures, ETFs, commodities, etc. And then number 10, consistently delivers low risk, high reward, high probability trades. What more could you ask for? Now, I'll go through this, and then we will answer any questions. If you guys have some questions, be sure to type them in. We'll be happy to answer them. We have put together a special for those of you that would like to join us. We'd be thrilled to have you. As I said, we have a wonderful group from all over the world that have been with us. Many have been with us for many, many, many years. We've actually met them and their families, and we have a great rapport. And so for those of you that are interested in joining us, we have put together a trial for you for the Master Trader program. It's the complete program as we've listed. It's the software, the classes, and the alerts. And your first month for a trial for 30 days is $47. Then the following months thereafter will go to $3.99 a month, and that is for the software, the classes, and the alerts, which is a wonderful deal because you will not find software like this anywhere else. You will not find an education and the fun. Not only do we provide education, but we have a lot of fun. Gary and I are very engaging, and we like to have a lot of fun with our students. And then the alerts, which Gary demonstrated what our alerts are like. They're very in-depth, and we cover a lot of information in our alerts as well. So we're very proud of what we've put together. As I said, we're different. We're a different breed. We put a lot of thought and heart and resources into what we provide for our members. And so we would be thrilled for you to join us. There is the link for those of you that are interested. As I said, we'd be happy to have you with us. And I'm posting the link in the chat for those of you that are interested. And now, if you have any questions, we'd be happy to answer any questions. So do we have any questions out there? Or I think we covered everything in depth. There is our motto for our software, our Market Price Anticipator software. Our motto is, empowers you to read and anticipate price in any financial market, on time, in time, all the time. Wonderful motto. And what more could you ask for, actually? And also, when you visit our website, you will see we have a beautiful world map illustrating our students from around the world. Whenever we get a new student, their country will appear on our world map, and we're very proud of all the students that we have around the world and all the beautiful flags that we have collected. And we like to say GPA Trading Services, educating students around the world. Yes, can you execute trades directly from your software? Absolutely. Absolutely. That's what the software is intended for. We don't recommend any particular broker for live trading. The software runs through MetaTrader 4, which is a free platform. And we use two different MetaTrader 4 platforms for demo accounts, and then you can place the trades in any broker you choose. As we illustrated, one of our students places his trades in TradeStation, another that does a lot of options trading. I think he uses Thinkorswim. So you can use any broker you choose for live trading. The software runs through MetaTrader, which is a free platform. But you can use any broker you prefer. We don't recommend a specific one for live trading. And yes, you can execute trades directly with the software as we were illustrating tonight.
And if you will, as soon as you sign up, as I see several people signing up, so thank you for those of you signing up. As you go to our website, and I'm just going to do this for you real briefly. Here's the website. You simply go into the members area. Once you're subscribed, you'll have a username and password. Once you log into the members area, once you're sign up for the membership, you'll see you have access to the class schedule. You just click on class schedule. It takes you right to our class on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays, gives you the trading, the actual link to enter, the password, etc. Then, of course, once you're either able to attend live classes, or over 50% of our subscribers are unable to attend, they utilize our class archives, and they're promptly posted each and every day right after class. So you can see we've had class on Tuesday, this morning on Wednesday. They're already posted for your viewing pleasure. You just click to view it. And then those of you that say, well, how do I get the platform to use in a demo account? As my wife mentioned, we do not recommend a particular broker for your live trading, but for demo trading, you can actually download the platform from our website, and you can enter and download the software accordingly from there. You can download Windsor Brokers or JFD. Those are the two we use for demo purposes. Once you install the broker platform, you simply install the software. And if you have any issues on how to do this, which is pretty self-explanatory, just exe files that automatically install it, then you can look at how-to videos. We have educational modules, and of course we actually have a trade size calculator. So everything you need, instant access, as several more are signing up. It's a wonderful deal. I can assure you, you're going to learn a lot about trading in that 30-day period, way beyond $47. And some of you, well, once it goes to $3.99, there are a lot of services out there that charge way more than $3.99 a month for just trade alerts, for just the class access. Well, our classes are 3 times a week, as I mentioned, and I'm usually in there about 2.5 hours on those days. So we're in plenty of time to review, explain, paint the picture of what the software is going to look like, what it's expected to do, how it's expected to move, when it's expected. You can ask for me to review any charts. We can go over software, anything you need. Thank you for your time and attention. Thank you for the numerous people that have joined us. So thank you very much. Dan has a question. Tried to register for the 47 dial. Keep getting the message verification image. Dan, what you need to do is either switch browsers. I don't know if you're an Internet Explorer. Use Firefox or Google Chrome. That should alleviate it. And if not, you don't have another browser,
Chrome, go to Internet Explorer.
Then go to Internet Explorer. Otherwise, you can delete your cookies and then try again, and that'll resolve the issue.
Because we have other people.
Yeah, we've had other people sign up, several people, and it's going through perfectly. So again, Dan, switch browsers or go into Google Chrome and delete the cookies and then try again, and you'll be able to get past the verification text. But I can assure you, you're never going to find a system like this, because once you allow the time frames to align, the system will take care of you. And we know the slingshot phenomenon is expected to fail or it's expected to succeed based on the alignment of time frame. So if I wait for the time frames to align, and when I trade I enter and I look left and right, your success rates are through the roof. And we have very specific rules of engagement, which include very strict money management rules. Everything is built into the software and this automated system. So this system can be used instantaneous. When I see a setup and I'm ready to enter now, I simply enter it now. Or if I know I'm waiting for something to set up while the time frames are cycling, then I can tell it to set it up so that it enters a day later, hours later, a week later, when that setup actually comes to pass.
And we also have pending orders too. You can also place pending orders.
One other thing I didn't mention, this is the trade management system. We also have a second one called the pending order. Any of you use pending orders? Anybody out there use pending orders, where you set an entry based on a support or resistance level? So if you go to a chart and you say, well, based on this, I see some strong areas of support or resistance, and I know when it gets down here it's going to bounce. Well, our pending order takes into consideration what other pending orders won't. What if I decide to tell the euro odd in this case? I want it to buy when it comes down to this major support level. As I go to a higher time frame, we can see when the euro odd, let's go to a weekly and get that picture, we can see when the euro odd was in an area, it found support, was resistance, turned support, came back as support. So as it moved back to this area, I would expect it to bounce. Well, if you tell it to buy at a particular level, and what if it misses it by 2 pips and reverses and moves up several hundred pips? You think, oh man, if I'd have just set that pending order just 2 pips lower, I'd been in a great trade. Well, this system allows the slingshots and triggers. So if it moves toward your target and hits it, yes, it's like a typical pending order, it'll enter it. But if it moves just shy of it and triggers higher, then it'll enter it anyway. If it moves just shy of it and it slingshots higher, it'll enter it anyway. That's a cool benefit, because there's been many times in the past where you use these pending orders and you just miss them, because it goes and it just misses it, whether I'm trading stocks, whatever, a few cents. If it misses it, it won't enter it. Well, this system is unique because I can tell it to use the same slingshots and triggers as before, so that if it does come close but no cigar and triggers higher, then it'll enter it anyway. 2 pips away, 5 pips away, whenever it triggers, because I can tell it to enter based on reaching my pending order, enter it based on a trigger should it fire at that point, or even a slingshot engaging. How cool is that?
As you can see, we put a lot of time and thought into this.
As you can see, we put a lot of time and thought. I've been using the same trading system for well over 10 years. I've been teaching students from around the world about the majority of that period of time, and most students stay with us, for, as many will tell you, for life, because we're constantly improving the software, and they've never been able to find a software that works this efficiently, nor have they found someone that spends as much time and effort as we do helping train our students. We won't let you fail. You follow instructions, you won't fail. You must follow instructions. I'd like to again say thank you for your time and attention. Please utilize the link we posted in the chat dialogue. You're welcome to sign up, and we look forward to those that have already joined us. Please join us tomorrow. As I showed you, you'll instantly get access. You simply go to the class schedule, and you can join us live class starting in the morning. So we look forward to seeing you then. Take care, everyone.